Let the dragon consume you! Enemy sighted. Stop the payload! Stop the payload! In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Birdwatcher's back at it one more time. Here's your host, Ryan and Clay. They're about to bring you some sweet Overwatch action.
All right, welcome back to what I feel like is going to be a pretty special episode of the Birdwatchers. We got a lot to talk about tonight, don't we, Ryan?
That's an understatement.
A ton of stuff to talk about. We had BlizzCon this weekend, which we always get. We get some news from. We get a hero, which I think is pretty cool. We got World Cup. We're not going to do any Overwatch League news this week. We're going to save that for a big chunky episode.
Yeah.
Once we get a big confirmation of what teams look like and stuff like that. A lot of is it hearsay? Yeah, that's the word, right?
Yes, yeah. We still have a lot of rumors floating around. Some things are confirmed. Like we have Atlanta confirmed.
Yeah.
We have Toronto Defiant confirmed. But like all the Chinese teams haven't really announced anybody.
Yeah,
we don't
absolutely.
know the name of the teams. We don't know their logos. So there's still a lot of space for information to be filled in. But there's still a lot of time.
Yeah, we'll
January
do it
and February, right?
I want to do a whole episode on Atlanta too, like just talking about their players and stuff like that. You know, both me and Ryan from the South. Ryan living in Atlanta.
Exactly.
I'm
in the heart.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to both be pretty big fans of this team.
Yeah.
Going into season 2, I'm excited to watch them. But let's get into the big stuff. Let's talk about BlizzCon.
Okay. Yeah.
What we saw there. Just a
Diablo mobile game. I'm just joking.
Yeah. Did you see the clip of the booze?
Yeah.
I felt so bad for that. They work on all these things for so long.
Yeah.
And expect everyone to be very excited. Turns out you can't make Diablo fans happy unless you go back to Diablo 2. So.
Exactly. Have you seen the red shirt guy?
No, I have not.
Okay, so after this, go online and look up red shirt Diablo guy. It's pretty good.
All right.
I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
He
cool.
basically is a guy who stepped up and asked them why are they so bad at making decisions.
No.
Like it was a straightforward question.
That's crazy because I always thought that they like almost pre-screened these things, and he just changed his mind at the last second. He's like, "Nah, I'm taking one for the team. I'm banned from BlizzCon."
I think he said, "Is this a late April Fool's joke?"
Oh, that's rough. That is
with
rough.
a straight face.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. Poor developers, man.
But we did get Ash.
We did. Did you watch the
How'd I say it 3
cinematic?
times?
Yeah.
Yeah, cinematic was good, man.
Yeah. It was cool. It was entertaining. It was funny.
Classic Western with some satire in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, being from the South, her accent, little bit too much.
Yeah, a little well, it's definitely more exaggerated than
Very thick, yeah.
McCree's.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it plays more into the movie style back then.
Yeah,
of them
yeah,
kind of
fair
going
enough,
over the
fair
top,
enough.
where
Yeah.
McCree kind of falls in that Clint Eastwood era type approach to the voice or the accent.
Sure. Yeah, he's a little bit more muted, and she is definitely over the top.
Yeah.
She's got a cool ensemble, and they discussed that actually in the next day after the cinematic was revealed, how they came to what she looked like and how she played and stuff like that. Which, if you get a chance, go back and watch that. That's really cool and
Yes, I
entertaining.
have to. I missed all the post stuff because we have so much. Listen, for you guys, we watched every game multiple times for this one. So
yeah, absolutely.
I missed out on a lot of the side content that I'm going to go back and watch.
Yeah.
Because people have been talking about it, and I've just kind of been blanking out.
Yeah. Well, she looks like a cool hero. Can't wait
Yeah.
to try her on the PTR. She's got kind of got a cool kit. We haven't seen anything like this before. She's kind of, I don't know. She reminds me a little bit of what Junkrat does. She has the bounce back effect, and she's got a bomb and stuff she throws. But she is hit scan, which is interesting.
Yes.
So, I'm excited. Yeah, she's got a friend named Bob that accompanies her as well, which is interesting.
What does Bob mean to you?
I don't know, man. He's cool. I did not get to see any ultimates with him when I was watching any of the videos. So
The only bit of gameplay I saw of her was when Emung was doing his stream.
Yeah. I watched a little
Jeff.
bit of that with Jeff Kaplan,
Yeah, and then also when Fran was doing her stream.
Okay, I didn't get to see Fran. I'll have to go back and watch that. I like her a lot. So.
And some news that just came out is Fran's now one of the official streamers for the Atlanta Reign.
Oh, I did not hear that. That's awesome. That's
So
cool.
the
I
whole
really
joke,
like her.
Yeah, the whole joke now is that Atlanta's hiring all the Frans.
That's awesome.
So if you have Fran in your name, look out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to change mine. Maybe they'll pick me
You
up.
might.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. Yeah, but yeah, the rest of BlizzCon, really cool. A lot of cool stuff that came out there. And like I said, pretty excited to see how she plays. I'm worried that Doomfist is still going to kill her over and over, but we'll see. Man, these predictions we made getting into World Cup, I feel pretty bad. I was on the coattails of France.
Yeah.
Day one. No spoilers. It was rough. I'm sure you were pretty excited though. The outcome of at least how Canada turned out.
Oh yes. Oh well. No spoiler.
Yeah. No spoilers.
This first day, yes. I'll say this: me and you.
Yep.
Obviously, we watch a bunch. We watch contenders. We watch everything. So we're familiar with a lot of these guys, their play styles, what they bring to the table. But I think what you can never really predict is the flexibility and the ability to be dynamic. And that's something that is the biggest theme of this Worlds, is that being dynamic is so important.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
It's something we've talked about, that we think, when we made our predictions about like next season, that, the flex spot is going to be very important because of that dynamic element. And we see it here. In a couple
absolutely.
of these games that we'll get into.
All right.
But are you ready to jump into this?
Yeah, let's kick it off. Let's talk about the United States and USA, which was our first match that... was this the first one that happened throughout the day? I guess... I don't know if we're doing the exact order how they aired, but regardless, we'll talk about USA.
Yeah, they started off with the showstopper.
Yeah.
Which is what you're not supposed to do. But I think obviously being U.S. company, American league of sorts, owned league, that they're going to start with USA. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Just get
crowd.
get the fans in there, get them going. And we did get to see 4 maps out of these teams, which is was pretty cool. Not the same throughout the whole series there, but it was cool. Yeah. Ryan, you watched these the traditional way through Twitch, right?
Yes, so that's something that I guess we should tell the fans about. So I think what we're going to try to do is we're going to have an aspect of which I watch. So let's talk about it. In case you guys didn't know, they released what is it called? It was the Overwatch World Cup viewer. Was that the name?
Which I guess will become the Overwatch League viewer or the Overwatch viewer at some point, right? It can't be just this. Yeah,
and a lot of people loved it. A lot of people loved the concept.
Man, it was awesome.
There was a big talk and joke about, now everybody's gonna have to buy a second monitor if you don't have one, right? so you can watch it properly.
Well, and not to interrupt, but I saw some guys watching it. They still wanted the commentary because obviously these guys do a great job, but they also wanted to watch it through the World Cup. So they had both of them on. They'd had the commentary and they were watching who they wanted to watch, which makes me wonder, are they ever going to be able to make this connection? Because it's through the game, it's through Battle.net.
Yeah.
Is this going to be ever something that we get to see through Twitch? Which, I don't know. It seemed like it'd be pretty tough to do, but...
Yeah. But that being said, so Clay's more inclined. He likes the tool, which you mentioned.
Yeah, love it.
So Clay's probably going to have more of a view, or is going to have more of a viewpoint from that.
Yeah.
Where I'm going to still kind of bring the traditional. Okay, this is what I saw during the actual broadcast, because I love the concept of the viewer, but more for a post content.
Sure.
Approach rather than like watching it live, because we do have bars here that I watch games at, so I'm usually out and about, and then when I'm doing taking notes, I come back and I just kind of blow through it. So who knows, I could end up doing both as well.
Yeah, I just get a little scrambled when I watch Overwatch. Obviously a very quick game, a lot of stuff going on, so if I get to focus on one character, I'm a little biased though, so some of my notes will be a little biased, like, man, this dude was insane because I was watching him the whole time, but I like the fact that you can switch back and forth. I've been picking generally supports because you get to see everybody in front of you a lot of the time. So I think that is your best bet. And this is going to be an awesome tool for people that not only want to get better at the game. Everyone asks, they say, how do you get better at Overwatch besides just playing a lot? Watch guys that are good at Overwatch. I mean, that's really the key is figuring out what their positioning looks like and how they're playing. So it's a great tool.
So let's start looking at USA versus United Kingdom.
Yeah.
Everybody talked about it. Everybody's UK stepping up for the country. Definitely pulling some unexpected performances out here. We had some standout players. I think one of the biggest things was Fusions.
Absolutely, man.
Fusions. So I think the first half of group stage, they had Christopher as far as their main tank. He's more of aggressive, your standard play type for Reinhardt, but I would say lackluster in a couple points. And they brought in Fusion, or they moved Fusion as main tank, and that was a huge shift because unlike most Reinhardts, he's a more conservative type, defensive style Reinhardt, which is more similar to how I play, and he is also a shot caller. So that's great, right? That's kind of what you want.
It was huge. Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, going into this, besides Fusion, anything stick out DPS-wise? Any of these guys impress?
Keeb. Is that how you pronounce it? It's Keeb, right?
Yeah, I was doing KYB, but that's probably a little too long, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or Kib.
Kib. Sorry, it's Kib. My bad. They kept saying it online, and I was like, okay. So, and then another one we're going to get into is, what's his name? Guzhui? Like in China? Like, there's these names on some of these teams. Funny enough, my buddy, not to get too sidetracked, my buddy was like, what he loved about China was how simple their names are.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to other players.
Right.
So it's easier to kind of keep
not
track.
Like Big Goose or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah, fair enough.
But no, Kib definitely stood out. And he's, I want to say more of a flex. I guess he is a DPS player. He plays a lot of Roadhog throughout this throughout this whole series here. And that's the part that stands out to me. His hooks are real solid. His hooks are, like, he lands the important ones, right? So you can have a 50% or a 40% hook rate percentage, but if your hooks are landing when you need them to land, and with the Roadhog shift that has been happening, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Roadhog changes aren't in this, right?
No, they are still in the PTR right now.
They're still in the PTR, but it has been said that Roadhog is currently a character that his hooks are important because if he misses them, it has this downtime gap where he's vulnerable and he's not really committing to as much to the team as he could, right? Because you're not creating that uneven opportunity. So yeah,
absolutely.
Kib is definitely what stood out to me from the UK standpoint.
Yeah, and I watched this mainly, like I had mentioned before, from especially from boom boxes, because this was the guy, obviously, on the UK, only guy in the Overwatch League. He was called out over and over, like, this is a guy that's got to step up, and he definitely does. This is a huge, I don't know what was going on. This is, obviously, we talked about Fusion, but Muma and Space, just no coordination throughout this entire game set. But Fusions, on the other hand, lands huge shatters.
Mm-hmm.
He is timing his shield perfectly. He lands so many fight-winning shatters. It's insane. So backed up by the damage that Boombox was laying down on Zenyatta this entire time, and Cruz was just boosting them into it the entire time. I mean, it was great.
We talked about Cruz in our last Contenders episode, and it was a case where he's kind of, well, now he's on the team. That's one thing. But his Lucio play, him and someone else that stood out later is Animo from South Korea.
Absolutely.
Where there was a lot of good Lucio in this World Cup, to the point to where, how people always say, well, supports don't get as much camera time, like, unless you're Jonak.
Right.
That changed here because you saw a lot of Lucio, because there were a lot of big Lucio plays that we'll probably talk about. But, USA started off strong, and I think part of the downfall here of why they got a lot of flack for Muma and Space's performance is because of all the trash talking before.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It's like when you ever watch, if you watch UFC, the guy that talks the most shit before the thing, you always cut to the clip later where he's getting knocked out. You know what I mean? It's always that guy. Just be calm, be collected, don't talk shit, because it looks a lot worse when you get knocked out.
Yeah. And it created some beef here post-game between UK and US. But,
nice. Perfect.
We won't get into that. But, to start off, not happening, they start off really, really strong for USA. And you talk about performances like Sinatra and Hydration. That's where, you had that Doomfist Farah combo.
Yeah.
And they performed really well on the control style. And they kind of came out on top with that first Ilios map. And, part of their strategy was targeting Boombox and trying to get him dead as fast as possible, which was smart because he is strong. And for some reason, it feels like his, when you're the OWL player on your team, right? It almost like it elevated the expectation from Boombox outside of just being in a league game. And he rose to it where like people were falling, like you're the guy carrying the flag, right? Like Fusion is calling the shots. But you're the guy carrying our flag because you're representing us in the league.
Yeah,
and now you're playing with these guys from Contenders or from Ladder. And it's like Boombox looked like a different person. He looked more confident. He played more confident. He played more like early Boombox that we remember, right? Like the dangerous guy who was like, before Jonak was really a thing. Everybody was like, this guy is super aggressive and he plays on the front line and he has like a bloodlust to him. And that's the Boombox that kind of came back, which was exciting to see.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And especially because we get to see a lot of mirrored comps as far as like we see these GOATs variants. And between him and Raucus, I'd like to see the numbers. Boombox is constantly doing damage, just constantly putting damage into the shield, into the Zarya and the Diva. Man, he puts out a ton of damage throughout this entire thing. But yeah, like you said, Sinatra and Hydration performed really well, and it just almost kind of dried up in the last 3 maps, right? We don't see Sinatra really get to perform very well. He's kind of forced over to the brig a lot of the times, which we know he doesn't love to do. I mean, this is a guy that got his name playing DPS, especially Tracer, and he's just, he's kind of forced over, and we see it with Soon later on in these games, the French-Canadian games. He's kind of forced to do the same thing. So UK definitely came. They prepared really well for these meta changes too, for sure.
As far as underperforming, though, I would like to mention Zachary.
Definitely.
Man, outside that first map, like everybody did pretty poorly around the board, right?
Yep.
We talked about, we won't go into how we felt about the audition process, the tryout process, and how that felt kind of skewed towards trying to keep the same guys there. Even though they may not have earned it. But Zachary being a new guy, right? From Philadelphia.
Contenders.
Contenders, Fusion. I don't know, man. That first map, like, they all looked good. But for the rest of it, he was lackluster. And to have him in for Hydration the majority of these games.
Yeah, we don't get Hydration back to the last map?
Exactly.
Yeah.
People are like, what? Why not pull him out faster? Because we see later with AKM in the France games where AKM kind of botches it and they take him out.
Yeah, they're just quick to do it. I was going to say, Hydration makes these really odd positional things. We know him as a Genji player, a Sombra player. He goes for hacks at really low HPs, and I don't know if he feels like he needs to be aggressive and get in there and get these hacks off, but man, he is constantly dying because he's putting himself right in the line of fire. And then his Genji, it is so difficult to play Genji right now with Brig and these high HP targets. So if you're taking a long time to get a blade, or if you're not getting picks without your blade, I mean, you're not there. You're almost, it's like 5v6.
Yeah. And one more theme that kind of stuck out here, which we get to focus on, is, we talk, and it's funny, I start with this big diatribe of like, hey, here's dynamic is good, flexing is good, but US push it. They push it. They have a lot of games where you have Zachary and Sinatra both apiece playing like 3 different characters. And not in a sense of the comps are revolving around those characters or adjusting with them. They're just swapping because either frustration or it's not working out. Right. And that's kind of what you want to avoid. We talked about McCree during regular season, right? How if there was like, especially against like Profit and the South Korean players, if you let them force you to switch to McCree and you don't want to play him, you're going to have a bad time.
Oh, get
And
punished.
That's the
Absolutely.
same concept here. Is it felt like the swaps Sinatra and Zachary were making weren't because, hey, we're good, we can play everything, and we just feel like doing this. They felt like they were being stretched and pushed to pick these characters, and that reflects here.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I want to ask you: was there a certain play or a certain moment in any of the games or maps that stuck out to you? I know I have one that really was big for me.
Kings Row. So this is map 2, Kings Row, UK on attack. UK on defense. Mikey A was insane on Zarya, and this is a big game because what happens is, we had USA winning Ilios before this, and then on the second map, UK gets that momentum back by, first of all, they're able to full cap on USA, and then on defense they completely full hold, and that's all because of Mikey A. And if that whole round of him playing Zarya at like high energy, the grabs are insane, everything is insane, and they're showing that they can play GOATs better than USA, who
Absolutely.
As part of the junk talking at the beginning, USA was raving about how they're the most practiced team, how they had a bunch of camps, how they had the most time together, X, Y, and Z. And seeing this here, this is like, well, we can still beat you in GOATs.
Yeah. Yep.
So that was mine. What was yours?
Mine was on Route 66, and this was on top of just Fusion. This whole map is just outplaying Muma, and you have these feelings on ladder when you're playing against somebody that's playing the same character. You're like, dude, this guy is way better than me at this point. So it's rough. He's blocking all these shatters. He's obviously getting a bunch of shatters on Team USA, but he sets up a charge onto Muma, who is blocking the Diva Bomb, which is, it's like, this is what you're supposed to do as Reinhardt, but he went that extra mile to just, lay his life on the line, charge into Muma, and the Diva Bomb knocks out the whole U.S. team. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Awesome play.
The thing, and, the commentators talk a lot about the Bash Shatter combo that UK had. But no, yeah, so the Bash Shatter combo, that was something that they used very well. You can tell it was practice. And it works every time, right? Because essentially you bash their Reinhardt, their shield now exposes them, their shield goes down, you expose them, you shatter, it lands most of the time because the team thinks they're safe behind. And it's very difficult because it's so fast. If it's coordinated well, it's very difficult for teams to adjust. So there's a high success rate, or at least there was a high success rate for UK. So yeah, that was a big part here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, those shatters from Fusions were, like I said earlier, bite changing. Man, he was getting some big 4K shatters. We're crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
But I guess as you guys can tell from how we're talking, is USA lost.
Yeah,
it was 3-1 UK.
Yeah, and it's weird because on the viewer they put the maps backwards, so that's how I watched them. I was like, why did they play a fourth match? So I got to Ilios last. I was like, I guess they're doing this one for fun. I did not realize.
What's the movies that are told back, or stories that are told backwards, or like told from different vantage points?
Yeah. I was like, oh, maybe they're doing this for like a tie. Yeah, I have no idea. I was just really wrong, is what I was.
Yeah, this is going to be something that people are going to talk about for a while.
Yeah,
this whole situation, because US has some explaining to do. And it's going to come up in OWL. I mean, there's already plenty of people talking about it. You can find on competitive Overwatch forums. Join if you haven't. But there's plenty of people on there is like, okay, well, what was the downfall? And are we making a bigger deal of it because of the trash talk? Or was it really bad? Is space really as good as... Oh, so one thing that was mentioned with the team viewer, people are saying that's kind of exposing a lot of space's weaknesses. Where during the season, people were like, "Whoa, this guy's a god," whatever. But as you watch him, people are saying that when you watch like him and then go watch like Fury on Diva, the technicality is completely different. Which I granted they're different players, but a lot of people are now calling for, okay, well, we need to go look at Team Viewer through the eyes of a lot of players now to see how much they're actually contributing. So this could expose. I'm not saying that Space is bad. That's not what I'm saying. Space is a great player, but it could expose a lot of players' tendencies and their actual contributions with that tool, which will be neat, right? Because the goal is the fans want the best Overwatch they can get.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I just do not think that Space and Mumu are on the same page. That's
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it's really coming down to. I've watched Space on stream. I've watched some of his other games. Really good diva, really good Zarya player as well.
Yeah.
Just the coercion between those two, just not there. Not like what we saw between the UK tanks. That's for sure. Our next game,
Yes.
Australia, Korea.
Wait, really? No. Did you really watch these out of order, didn't you?
I watched them like down the row. How'd you watch
Oh. I watched them as they aired.
them? Oh, what
So
aired
Canada, France was the next one.
Okay, let's do it. Canada, France.
Yeah, so Canada, France, this was interesting. And obviously went back and forth on this one. And I want to let you know I'm mad at you that I let you convince me that France is going to beat us. You definitely, I was very confident in our team. Clay gave me a couple of points. I bended to his will, and I for the sake of the bracket we were building as for the episode.
Yeah.
I let it
no
go.
one feels worse than me because after all of this, I looked at myself. The long.
You know what? I went back and listened. You're not getting that soccer team, buddy.
Oh, no joke.
Sorry, you're not.
I had to pour myself a drink. I was like, I'm stupid. I'm a stupid man.
I'm a stupid man.
Yeah.
But no, I mean this started off very competitive, right? France, we talked about UK and the kind of shock, how they shocked the world with their performance. And France is that other piece of the puzzle where a lot of it was like, oh, okay, they have Soon, right? That was the big thing. They have Soon.
Right.
That's it. But they have Poco, you have Ben Best, who came out of nowhere. You have, and who is now on Team Paris. A lot of these guys are going to be, once they finalize that roster. I think they have finalized it and put it out, actually. But we'll get into that in another episode. But Unco has been, people are always kind of indifferent or in the middle when it comes to Unco. AKM, once again, a lot of people feel he's on the bottom side of the tier when it comes to all the players. So France, on paper, not a big deal. But they came out and they showed out, especially in group stage, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so the aggression here from France is what they're doing, which is interesting, is for Busan on the Sanctuary map. So that's the one that's very open, and it has the statue in the center, and that's where the cap point is. They would cap, and then they would go aggressive defense, and because the spawn points on that map, on that version, that round of Busan, is very open, once you come out of your spawn, you don't have anywhere to hide, really. There's a corner you can kind of go around, or a bend, but you can't really hide. So what they would do is they would use AKM's McCree ult to essentially pin them down. So he's not trying to get a kill. He's just using the full ult to keep them inside a spawn for longer. And I thought that was a neat strategy, and it was working, right? They did this, I want to say, about 3 times.
Yeah, this was definitely a great example of protect the McCree, which it really does work if you plan around it. And we saw China play a lot more McCree than, especially all the other teams playing quite a bit more McCree. But they plan around this kind of thing, and it looked like France had set this up to, make AKM kind of the focal point. And put a lot of work behind him. But when they got foiled, it kind of put them behind, right?
Oh yeah, I wanted to, and I'm happy you mentioned that. You mentioned that it's called, or what people are calling these comps is protect the McCree or protect the soldier, and that's the case where you try to facilitate that character, that player, to allow them to maximize their effects. And here, the reason it falls through is because AKM starts off strong, but like AKM usually has trouble with, he starts to fall off. And that's what happened here. And with Canada, so, Canada, I love my country. The thing we do great, and we've always done great, is that we're a big play team, right? So when it comes down to, hey, this team needs to do something huge, or do a play, or they need to make this play, the clutch play, that's something we're real good at pulling off the majority of the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It helps that you have agility. It's like easily one of the best Genjis in the league.
As people say, he has probably the highest ceiling for getting better.
The highest
I was
going to say, we didn't see a lot of Genji play throughout this entire, but besides agility was picking him when he can, man. It was really cool. And he was one of the only people that I got to see a successful Nano Blade out of.
Yeah.
So we don't get to see a ton of those, but every once in a while. Brig makes it very difficult. You get in there, you get stunned, you get slept, you get killed. So it's tough.
But we did see in place of Genji a lot of Doomfist, which was a proper analogous to it. And we got to see both versions of the Doomfist. We got to see Mangachu's Doomfist and Agility's Doomfist. And naturally, Agility's plays his Doomfist more like Genji, where Mangachu plays it more of a zoning type situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And Mangachu known for his hero pool kind of thing as well. But yeah, it's something that the Sombra. So I want to talk about the Sombra Doomfist combo we see a lot here, and this is what Canada came up with. So we don't play goats very well or at all, right? And Jane mentioned that the whole goal was to find a way to beat goats, and to do that, they came up with Sombra Doomfist, which actually makes sense.
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
They disrupt shield characters and energy-based characters, and they break through shields, right?
Yep.
So it makes sense here, but then you need the people that can play it at that level and that can coordinate. And for some reason, I guess they're used to playing with each other, but the Canada team is really coordinated when it comes to these things that look hectic, right? And I kind of go on a rant real quick as far as what I noticed, which I think is damn near genius. So as far as the team composition, right? And bear with me here, all right? I'll let you talk again at some point. But the way the team is set up is almost ingenious because you have these players that are more aggressive, right? So you have like Agility's Mangachu kind of swapping off because you can sub after each map now.
Yep.
And you have Surefour, who is super aggressive when it comes to that front as well. And then you have XQC, which is one of the most aggressive tanks known to the Overwatch League, right? But then you have the other half of the team, which is Note, who's a more conservative playstyle diva, right? Real great, but he plays more like
he actually reminds me of Fury. He is really good at being very attentive to his supports. He's great at peeling.
That's what I was
great
saying.
at peeling.
Great at peeling, yeah. And so you have Note, who's more conservative, focuses on protection. You have Bonnie and Crimzo, who Crimzo's off a ladder and played a bit in Contenders. And he is also, like those two, they play usually ranged real far back, right?
Yep.
Where Bonnie can play, like only time Bonnie really plays super aggressive is when he's playing Lucio, and he turns it on and off. But it's cool. So you have this division of a team style, right, as far as your player base. And then you have the characters they pick, right? So now you have a sense where you have, okay, so you have Mangachu on Doomfist or Surefour, and then you have Surefour playing Sombra, right, the new Sombra, being up in the mix. And then you have XQC playing Winston, right? That's super disruptive, and that's a case where it's a coordinated disruption. So they're essentially like people are getting knocked up all over the place, people are getting spread out, people are getting hacked. It's a very chaotic situation. But the other half of the team is Note on Diva, right? At any point you can get a bomb, but he's mainly protecting the support structure. And you had Bonnie and Crimzo playing back as like Ana and Zenyatta, right?
Yeah.
That to me was like I saw that and I was like, this is fucking genius because it's almost like it's controlled chaos, but they practice it, so for them it makes sense. But for a team as playing goats, everyone knows that goats is very dependent on every character involved. So if you pick off one character, that's how you break down goats. But it's very hard to pick off a character. Well, how do you pick off a character in that situation? You spread everything out.
Yep. Yeah, you force people to try to push into you or step back. Yeah,
exactly.
It was really cool to see for sure.
That was the highlight of my my viewing experience. Was like these. Jane, obviously, everybody, he's a great coach. Jane has proven himself over and over again. He's very versed. The man is very intelligent. But to have these tools and be able to know, hey, we can do this. We can disrupt goats. When a part of this pool in the top 8 is goats, that's super impressive.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Sorry for my spiel there, but I had
you're
to
good.
talk about it.
Really, the only things that stuck out to me.
Yeah.
I mean, they're pretty big things. And you kind of got into this. The alt management that Canada uses is far superior than France. France is almost using these frantic, especially the support alts. Canada seems to go into each fight. They know which 2 alts are going to use. They use those alts. They conserve the rest for the next fight. And that's why they're able to just constantly just push on France. Just constant, over and over. Great ult management. The entire 3 maps we see. And we brought up Crimzo. He really impressed me. A lot of these guys, they're playing either traditional GOAT style, where you get the Mora, Lucio, and the Brig, or they're playing the Zenyatta instead of the Mora, so you get that little bit extra DPS. Crimzo generally played Ana almost 90% of
Yeah.
this. He does switch over to the Zenyatta a little bit, but it was great because they would expose the GOATs front line to these big grenades. It's kind of hard to see on the viewer as much as you would see on stream, which was I was kind of watching for, but huge biotic grenades which would turn fights. Playing some aggressive stuff towards some chokes as well. Like you said, he would get back, he would come up, throw a grenade, get back. So it made it really difficult for them to try to focus him down, because that's what you want to do. You want to kill the Rhine or kill that main support. Man, he was playing really well.
And I have to say, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah,
no,
go ahead.
Crimzo, because you're on the point of Crimzo, he pushes how far Ana can play back. I rarely see Ana's play that far back, to the point to where with this style that I just mentioned, it makes them very hard to get to the support line. So not only do you have Note monitoring them, but you have to actually get over there.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a GOAT comp. That's not easy.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like I mentioned before, agility is just easily one of the best Genjis, and they utilize it. Like I said, with Crimzo playing Ana a lot of these maps, he's allowed to play Genji, where we see Soon kind of forced to play a role that he doesn't want to play. I mean, he talks about this all the time on stream and in interviews. He doesn't want to play Brig.
Tank.
Yeah, or playing Brig this entire time. It's like, man, this guy, he gets to play Widowmaker maybe for a couple of minutes a map, and then he's just forced right over to the Brig. So he's just not utilizing the talent there that they have. And I guess they feel like they had to run GOATs because that's what they did. They did really well in the group stage with GOATs. And Canada just breaks it down, man. They expose them.
Yeah, so some plays I like to talk about. The perfect frame timed EMP note bomb.
Oh yeah, very good.
On
it was a 3K.
Yeah, on Mecha ship. That was good. There was a play by Mangachu where he was able, GOATs, they were lining up, and he was able to rocket punch, and he did it on purpose, rocket punch through, and then uppercutted both the supports and killed them in that one move.
That was a game changer too.
Yeah.
That was a real fight. I thought they were like a guy or two down at this point, and when he comes in and kills these guys,
that was huge.
Is it realistic though? Can you punch two people up in the air? I don't think so.
If your fist is that big, right?
I don't know.
It's all about surface area. Right?
Okay, fair enough.
I'm happy all I had to say was surface area, and you gave up.
Yeah.
You're like, all right,
it's a big hand. Okay, you can punch two people.
But there's another thing I want to point out is AKM Grav the new AKM Blade? Did you see this?
I'm sure I did.
Okay.
Did it take 9 years to get?
Well, it took a while to get, and then he blew it. Like, he missed everybody.
Gotcha.
And I think it was close to spawn too. It was bad. To the point where I was like, "Yep, that's AKM for you." Like when you need him to kind of and I think they won a big fight, and then he just dumped it, and everybody's like, "Wait, what happened?"
Yeah, I have a little remorse.
Cheap.
Yeah, I have a little remorse. If you're getting quick grabs, then I don't mind. You missing. Grab is a little bit different now than it was, obviously 5 months ago, where you can kind of throw it anywhere. But when you miss grabs and your whole team's like, "What the fuck? You got the baby diva somehow." I'm like, "Yeah, that's all I wanted. I just wanted the baby diva." Yeah,
and I noticed that every game that a grab was wasted, not a miss, not somebody who's trying to use it and missing, like just an obviously wasted grab. Either at the end of a fight or whatever, it costs the team that does it. And we'll talk about another one later in this one. But all right. But yeah, this kind of turned out to be, better than I thought. We end up sweeping France, which no one expected.
Yeah, 3-0, man. Insane.
Yeah, 3-0 performance. It was they looked top of the I didn't expect them to look this good.
Right. I definitely didn't. Remember
especially
what
against
I said last week.
Yeah, exactly. I did. Oh, I know. But against the GOATs, because everybody's like, well, Canada doesn't play GOATs. What are they going to do? They say they have a way to break it, but everybody says that kind of shit. And it's like, but they showed up here. So, so 3-0 to Canada here.
Yeah, absolutely. And XUC, just a side note, I know we're getting, he has not missed a note at this point.
Yeah.
I know insane. He has a note on his team. That's really weird. Still performing at the top.
Did you write that one down?
I didn't. I should have. That would have been great.
That's off the top of the dome. No, and I want to say, because I'm always trying to keep a clear conscience, because people know how I felt about XQC over this time frame, being Canadian, being Canadian, and the kind of stuff he went through in the league, with the stuff that happened. I've always kind of been kind of disappointed by his behavior, blah blah. But he stepped up here, he behaved himself, right, and he's still playing at a level, like, to not be in the league or be in the second half of the league and still be able to perform here, because he looks better than he used to look.
Oh yeah.
And he still has that hectic, like, he brings this energy that people hate, because when you have to play against him, it's so erratic that you don't know what he's going to do. But when he does do it, he does it well. He had one move where, like, he Winston jumped, like, the character was right in front of him, but what he did was he caddy corner Winston jumped, like, into a corner, and then as he's bouncing off the corner, falls at an angle so he could get the person as they're running away, like, get his fall damage and stuff like that. Like, these little things he does that shows you that he's good. And his Reinhardt's a lot better. It's a lot better. So yeah, props to him, man, for and the whole segment with XQC stuff. I don't know if you saw this on the cast. So real quick, there at the beginning of the game, they talked about how he used to live with the three casters, right? Right. With Bren, Sideshow, and Reinforce. And they talk about, for a brief moment we got to live with the guy, but when he left everything, right? Oh yeah, it just never. Did he ever come and get it? No, he just left it in the storage closet. He left all his stuff. So Bren brought a bunch of his stuff in a box. And as they're doing an interview with XQC, Bren shows up and he just kind of starts, he's like, hey, I brought all your stuff. He's like, I don't want it. He's like, give it to the fans. And the fans go crazy. So they start giving away all the stuff in the box. There's like an old Dallas Fuel hoodie. There's a keyboard. Cool. There's a mouse. And then there's also a USB cords. HDMI cords. There was a broken hanger, and then they gave away the box. It's pretty. It was hilarious. But all that to say that I'm proud that he was a stand up guy here. People love him. I mean, he was on the vote for MVP and stuff like that. So absolutely. Yeah, so like people love him as a person of the community. So it's good to see him still being a part of that and kind of turning over a new leaf. At least it appears that way. I don't know if he wants to come back in the league, or if he can come back in the league, or how that works. But as he is now, good on him. I hope he's on the team again next year. Even though previously I said I didn't want him on the team, I think he proved me wrong. So that's definitely a thing. All right, so we got our next two games of the day, which is China-Finland, followed by Australia and South Korea. So we'll start with China-Finland. I think it's weird to be like, hey, how do you feel, Clay? I mean, we know how we felt. We did a whole prediction episode. China, Finland, we kind of expected. Finland, one of the, let's say, old gods. They've been good, right? They've had good players. We talked about that. China, though, has been a space of a lot of contention where it comes to, it came out recently that, not to go too far into it, that Shanghai Dragons was kind of a more financial approach, a more influenced approach on how that team was built. So a lot of the Chinese talent that should have been represented in the league wasn't. And now that we have 4 Chinese teams, everybody said, okay, this is the time where China's finally going to get that talent out there to be seen. And this all starts with the World Cup. You had a lot of Chinese owners in the crowd, actually, of the new teams watching this as well. So there's a high chance we see a lot of these players in the league. Oh, yeah, considering, like we said, we haven't had announcements on their full rosters yet. So that could mean they're still signing. All that being said, this was a hell of a match, especially from the Chinese standpoint. Oh, absolutely, man. They looked really good. Almost every aspect of this team comp, man, just on fire. Yeah, the main theme here for me watching this team was, well, first of all, they have no emotions. It helps. Yeah. It reminds me of like early South Korea, like early Overwatch stuff with South Korea, where they didn't really like respond when they were having huge plays. Like with Canada, I'm so used to us popping off, like going insane, XQC jumping out of his chair, pumping up the crowd, stuff like that, where China will win and someone has to come over and tell them, hey, it's over. You can get up now, like kind of thing, right? Right. But no, one thing that stands out here, outside of that, all jokes aside, is that they're real good at finishing kills. So you can do all the damage in the world, right? But if you have 10 limbs by the end of the game, it doesn't matter. because you're not finishing kills, you're just doing damage. So it's not you're not following up. But with China, when they pick a target, that target dies a majority of the time. It's not a case where they get away. It's not a case where, an unknown heal, they don't escape. It's just they kill the targets and they follow through. And if you watch the feed when you're watching a game with the China team in it, the feed is always consistent. It's like a line of death. It's like, if one person on the other team dies, you can see the next person, next person, next person, next person. It's not scattered, right? As far as yeah. So I don't know. Did that kind of seem?
Yeah, definitely really well coordinated for sure. Especially, man, they would come back from fights after even losing one guy on their team, which Finland, watching this team, could never do. They could barely win fights with all 6 of their guys there throughout this. Man, all 3 maps, they looked rough, man. I don't know what was going on, and I'll get to it. But I think a lot of it has to do with the tank lineup. It just uncoordinated, just like USA. Zappis and Fraggy just never near each other on the map. They barely are peeling for each other, or they're, I don't know, man. Zappis was just out trying to kill people randomly. It was just really strange. But no, you're exactly right. They were super well coordinated. They were following up on calls and plays, and they were winning fights that they should have probably regrouped and just stepped back, but they would just win the fights, and they were well coordinated.
And similar to this, because if China wins this, my concern was that we would play them, and they're very versatile. They bring a lot here. So China's not a GOATS team as well,
right?
So out of all the teams in the current top, the 2 that stand out as not being GOATS focused at all, or less than 20% of the time, is China and us, Canada. So that concerned me, and we see that here. And I wanted to get your, we'll go back to Fraggy's performance, but I want to get your opinion here. On Night Market round 3 for the first map on Lijiang, we had China picking interesting comp. It was Hammond, D.Va, Sombra, Pharah, Zen, Mercy.
Love it. Yeah.
Can you give me some top 500 insight on that combination?
Just insanely disruptive, and I'm assuming they were just wanted to play something that Finland would not know how to play against. A lot of people don't know how to play against Hammond. Throw a Pharah in the mix too, it gets real difficult to plan around because Finland's pretty one-dimensional. They play GOATS. They don't even play GOATS with Ana, which is something that China was, when they were switching over to GOATS, they would play the Ana, which is great. Love to see it because the anti-grenade, if you land a big one, that just shuts down the whole team because that's all GOATS has. It's a lot of healing, a lot of HP. No, I think they just wanted to be super disruptive, just try something that they didn't know, and it definitely worked out for them, right? I mean, they just couldn't figure out how to beat a Hammond and a Pharah as well. Yeah,
and it extends, this comp also extends plays, so, my analysis of it was okay, this is a control map. You have a D.Va, you have Mercy, and obviously, D.Va has 2 lives. You can res D.Va or you can res Hammond. Yeah. And Hammond can stay alive for a long period of time. Pharah can, Sombra can go invisible, come back. It's I see what you're saying. This is actually it seems like if you can pull it off, it's a really strong control map comp.
Yeah, sure. Just keep coming right back to the fight. Yeah. Just a long fight, especially GOATS, you wipe, right? Yeah. If you kill a Hammond gets back really quickly. You can step back for a second, do a small regroup and get right back into the fight. It's not a total regroup, getting out of the fight completely.
Yeah. And then going back to what you said, your point about Zappis and Fraggy, I was very disappointed. I was very disappointed on the performance here. Fraggy, obviously aggressive. He starts off aggressive on these first couple maps, but it was less of smart, aggressive Fraggy and more of just poor decision-making. And we've talked about in the past, you can go listen to any episode about Fraggy's Winston is bottom of the barrel when it comes to the league. And he has to play Winston here, and he makes a questionable choice. On Hollywood China, when they're on attack, there's a point where they break down, and Fraggy gets behind the lines and out of position, and he just starts wandering around the map. There's no time for it. They need to contest a point. And then in order to get back, he pops Primal and burns half his Primal. And it turns out they needed that Primal for the next fight because they only had a minute and some change left. And it was a lot of poor decision-making.
Yeah, it was really messy. Absolutely. Unlike China, like we said, we're super well coordinated this entire time. I almost wish Finland Two things. I wish Finland would just play with it they're good at.
Yep.
Keep Fraggy on the Rhine. I know there's some of those points, obviously, Hollywood point to you need to be able to contest high ground. But, man, when you're just throwing your body into the, to the spawn over and over, are you really doing anything? Who cares about high ground at that point if you're just dying over and over? And I think they came out super confident, Finland, thinking that, obviously they underrated China and how good they were, and it really screwed them over, man. It really fucked them.
And, part of it was, we go back to this cockiness or this confidence that they talked a little bit too much, where Finland came out and they were telling everybody what they were playing. They're like, oh, we're just going to play triple tank. It doesn't matter what they play. Triple tank, triple support. We're going to do that. We're going to do that well. And people were like, well, that's not how it works. Like, you can't just keep saying that.
Right.
And, we notice here, talk about the coordination, the beauty of how China works together is even when they were playing that disruptive comp we mentioned just a while ago, they use that same comp to almost bait Finland off a point. They do bait Finland off a point and do a back cap and stuff like this to win maps and pull things out. That Finland doesn't have that same coordination here. And, okay, so it's either pronounced Guzwe or Juzwe. I'm going to go with Guzwe.
Yeah, sounds good.
But Guzwe and Late Young, those two together are just dangerous. Like, people do not get away from them. If you're dying, you're going to die. Like, they're going to finish the kills. And that happens on Hollywood a bunch. And then Late Young does not die at all. That's another thing here where, when it not only is Fraggy and like the tank line dying a lot, he has a bunch of poor shatters. They're not contesting point properly. They're just letting them get free reign or free movement on points. It's just an all around shit show, to say the least.
Yeah, get back to Late Young, man. He really impressed me with the Diva play. Really impressed me. He had some really fight-winning Diva bombs that were one or two guys, but he was getting Zappas out of mech, which is a fight win for China almost every time because Zappas, I don't know what was going on with this guy all weekend, but man, dude, it was rough to watch. He just did not seem like he knew what was going on that entire time. Was not peeling for his backline. Was not peeling for Fraggy, and Fraggy needs a lot of peeling, man. You gotta help that dude out. On Winston. Like I said, if he would have stuck to some more of the Reinhardt play, I think it would have been a different set of maps. But yeah, China really dominant. All three maps.
And to even go back to the coordination of China, they even have like kind of your out of the ordinary combinations of people working together. So for here, like on Hanamura, like point one. There's a Lucio, their Lucio and Genji combination is real, like they're working together. Like that's like a combo you don't really see, where Lucio's kind of placing people in a place for leave to take, or not. Who was playing? I'm not sure who was playing Lucio, but I know Crystal was on Genji, and like those two were tearing it up. Like the whole side was just Lucio or Genji, right? Yeah. And then when you get to point two, the combo they were working on and focusing on was Brogan and Sombra. Like they were kind of using their disruptive abilities to take people out. So the whole right side of the kill feed, it's like they know. I don't know. I guess they play together a lot, or they practice together a lot, or they just have some kind of sixth sense when it comes to the coordination. But nothing they did in any of these games for this match looked sloppy.
Right. Absolutely. And Finland, man, the DPS pretty quiet the entire entire three maps as well, right? Didn't see much out of Linkser. Obviously, he's getting forced over to characters that probably didn't want to play as well. But yeah, man,
he did have a better Doomfist than I expected from a hit scan player, or from
absolutely
projectile player.
Yeah, he did actually do well on the Doomfist especially on Hanamura. I think he did perform well.
He had some big plays there. One thing here that I told you I would go back and reference is wasted Zarya grab. So on round 2 with Finland attacking, there's a point where the fight's over. Like there's no one there, and Linkser grabs. It's literally a grab that's it's just sitting there. And everybody's like, oh, okay. Like I think even I forgot who's casting, they're just like, oh, there's the grab, okay. But the problem is they needed that grab for that next fight, because what happens is they get in, they lose that next fight, they lose momentum, and they're forced to late swap.
Yeah.
So Finland has to late swap, and now they're in a situation where China's just picking them off. And you had Leave playing Doomfist, and you had a Mei as well. I think there was a Mei. Yeah, I think I remember correctly. Yeah, there was a Mei
on
as well.
Hanamura. Mm-hmm.
And then once they decide, okay, we have to figure out how to deal with the Mei, they swapped a Widow. and then they just go off on Widow. And it was a case where like I was like, see, that's the kind of stuff you can't when you're already performing bad up to this point because Hanamura was the last map they needed to kind of stretch this thing out. You can't make mistakes like that.
And they did. It just kind of a reference to the whole, the whole set is just really uncoordinated, just not talking to each other. I don't know. It was rough to watch, man. I thought a lot more of Finland going into this, and China definitely impressed me.
Yeah. So we have China with 3-0.
Yeah.
Insane.
This was nuts.
Yeah. I was watching this one at the bar, and I had a few drinks in me, and definitely couldn't believe my eyes. So I had to go back and watch it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to make sure I wasn't dreaming. But all right, so our final match of the day. Gosh, we're giving you guys a bunch of content, right? Final match of the quarterfinals is Australia versus South Korea. So this is one where obviously everybody kind of knew how or expected it to turn out. Australia's not as big as an underdog as I guess UK was expected to be in their matchup because they were just playing the US, right? But when it comes to South Korea and you're Australia, you're kind of just happy to be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good old drop bearers.
And that being said, and this might be a stretch, I think if Australia plays USA, they win. Maybe Finland as well. I think this was probably my favorite match to watch out of all four. I did like seeing USA lose, but not because I'm not a patriot, but I don't like a lot of the players on the USA team.
Yes, yeah. I listen. I wanted Sleepy. I think Sleepy should have made the team, but I would love
to see Sleepy.
Whatever. And I'm Canadian, so whatever. I can be unpatriotic.
Yep. But after watching all of these, I think
I agree with that.
Australia would have definitely given Finland and France probably and USA a really good run. So
one thing that stuck out to me, which we expected, was Huss's somber performance. I think that kind of grounded this whole this gave Australia the chances they needed on a lot of these maps.
Absolutely.
He stepped up to the plate. I mean, South Korea is real good at adjusting, and this is one thing I want to mention that I know I lost track of it. I had to remind myself. I was like, I had a light bulb moment. I forgot that South Korea is a defensive-based team. Like NYXL is a defensive-based team. Yeah. Like they're real good at defense. So when the attacks weren't as strong as I thought they would be, I was like, oh no, Australia's really holding them back. But now I was like, oh wait, they're not going to let them get anything, right? Like they're going to struggle for every inch.
Yep.
And that's what we see here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just a few things that stuck out to me. Like I had mentioned before, I think this was easily one of the best Australian teams we've seen in the last couple of years. Really would have been competitive against USA. They did lack a little bit in the backline peel. They let their Ana die a little bit too much. I don't know if it's because Custa was playing more Mercy than we've seen between all the teams, because Australia just relies, and they have relied on this Pharah Mercy combo for a long time, and obviously it is very good. But like I said last week when we talked about what's going to be the downfall is they're going to try this. Carpe is going to switch to Widowmaker or McCree, and that's exactly what he did. And you pair that with Fury and Jonak on the same team, you're just never going to be able to play the Pharah Mercy, and they rely on it a lot. They put a lot of eggs in one basket, and it really didn't pay off. It's crazy because when I was watching these, obviously on the World Cup viewer, I watched Jonak the entire time. Because
a little bit biased, are we?
No joke. He is insane. Go back and watch these videos because when he goes to orb somebody, it's like a flick up and then he's right back on a target. He is focused on one thing only, and that is DPSing. And that's why he really does get his ultimate every single fight.
Yeah.
And they use that to their advantage, especially on defense, because he'll get his ultimate. They'll push with it. You know what I mean? So that was the things that stuck out to me. They really just relied too much on Pharah Mercy, and I wish they would have stuck with Huss on Sombra and maybe CKM playing a little bit more Brig, because when those two were playing Brig-Sombra combo, they looked really good. And especially on Blizzard World. I don't know if you noticed this, on Blizzard World, Australia pretty much stops Korea at the very end of the map, and they are poised to win this map because they just need to push it a little bit more. They got 3 minutes going to the last point. They make this audible to Farrah Mercy at the last point when they're pushing this cart really quickly.
Yep.
And this easily could have been a win for them. They're like, no, we need to switch to Farrah Mercy, and they burn 3 minutes off the clock just puttering around. So it was hard to watch.
Yeah, because another thing of that stood out was the Carpe swap to Torb, which I wouldn't know how to respond to that, right? It's like you're right there.
Yeah.
You're right there to Cap, and now he switches to Torb. So what do you do?
You just got to trust in that Carpe, man. If you're Korea, I don't know what you do for Australia.
No, and that's the thing is like, South Korea, one thing they'll have over anybody is their ability to adjust and the wide range of characters they can play.
Yeah, right? I'm glad you brought that up, man. Especially on Temple of Anubis.
Yeah.
If you watch this map, it's insane to see them play chess against Australia.
Yeah, and Jake, Jake, not in the match, he's actually commentating here, makes a great point in the Busan map where he's like, he notices, he's like, Australia is making a lot of inexperienced mistakes. Like, these are things where Custer's really the only guy who has a lot of experience. All the rest of the guys are from the Drop Bears, right? In Australia, their division is also super isolated. We've talked about that in other episodes. So what happens here is you have things like Huss will swap to Widow because he's having trouble on Sombra, and then he'll use his Infrasight after both of his supports die. And it's like, why would you do that, right?
Right.
Little things like that, alt management, decision-making is what South Korea is going to take advantage of because they don't make those mistakes.
Yeah, they add up, man. Those small mistakes do add up for sure.
Yeah, and going back to your point, or going back to the point I made about the ability for South Korea to trust, on Blizzard World specifically, Australia tests that ability because they come out with this comp, and I wanted to ask you about it. Torb, Ana, Diva, Orisa, Junk, Brogan, which sounds absurd to me, right?
This is Australia, right? They're doing this on defense. Yeah, I remember Custo was playing the Torb, yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to know, like, I was like, it kind of put South Korea on their back foot, but they adjust and they're able to get through it. And that kind of plays into them not being able to get a full cap. But even so, Blizzard World was where Australia was testing the metal and seeing like, okay, South Korea, you can play anything. Can you play against this?
Yeah, right. I think this was probably Australia's best map, minus the third point push for them. It was good, but like you said, Korea is just so quick to adjust that they'll figure something out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. It looked very good. I mean, obviously, Fleta wants to play Genji or Pharah, but it's when he switched to the Pharah that really just broke up the whole thing. They had no way to really contest him, and we got to see Animo obviously pocket him a little bit as well.
Dude, Animo's Lucio is so good. Listen, what we got during the season was not what I expected, and supposedly people are saying that he's just getting better. Because we got Animo during a time where Arc was actually at the top of his game, and Arc is still great, known for his Mercy, and Mercy was the focus, right? So we didn't get to see a lot of Animo playing the Torb, or playing the Lucio, my bad. And to see his, like, the two Lucios that stood out above all, and I posted about this on the forums as well, is that Cruz, this tournament, and Animo. Those Lucios, I'll never forget. Actually, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it next, in part two of this special. But that stood out here to me. And one more thing I wanted to go to your point about Australia kind of floundering. Do you think Custa played Torb a little bit too much? I mean, it was cool, crowd loved it. It's definitely an unexpected move because the changes just came out, but still.
I mean, maybe he was trying to surprise people with the pick. I didn't love it. But what does Custa play? I mean, what is he competing against? Like, he's competing against Jonak, easily one of the best. Definitely, I think the best Zenyatta player in the, easily one of the top Ana players as well. I don't know.
When you win MVP of the Overwatch League and then go and win the MVP of the World Cup.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
And you just came off a ladder.
Go back and watch Temple of Anubis. Get on the viewer or just pick him.
Yeah.
It is unreal how good this guy is.
Okay.
Unreal.
He's my inspiration, man.
But so
Ryu
Korea.
Jae-hong too.
Yeah. Ryu Jong. Too old for Overwatch. That's what they're telling him.
I don't believe it.
We'll see. We'll see this next year.
So I mean, one last thing I want to touch on is Temple of Anubis, which it's funny because throughout this whole series, like this whole cup, Temple of Anubis is where all the bad things happen to teams. which makes sense, right? It's obviously, I feel like it was built on an Indian burial ground. It's it's a cursed place. It's your favorite map, which we'll never forget.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But all the bad decision making and like the most important times where people fail or fall through happens on Temple of Anubis.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a curse. But here, Australian attack, they're able to get point 1 immediately, and they have over 5 minutes to get point 2.
Yeah,
where,
close to 6 minutes. Yeah.
Where South Korea, they did a great job. Like South Korea full caps, but they don't have much time left. And Australia's in a great position. And what does South Korea do? They go to Doomfist May.
Yeah. I think this whole defense, they swapped like 4 or 5 different DPS comps, man.
Oh my goodness.
This is a great map to watch, just to watch South Korea on defense, man. It's insane.
Never forget, man.
Insane.
But yeah, did you have anything left? South Korea 3-0, man.
No, I think that's all I had.
I think this is one of the few maps that actually turned out exactly how everybody expected.
Yeah, it's kind of sad.
3 upsets, and then one that kind of went the board. So, just to kind of break it down for you for quarterfinals. So we had U.S. versus United Kingdom, UK coming out 3-1. We had South Korea versus Australia, South Korea coming out 3-0. We had China versus Finland, China taking it 3-0. And then we had us, Canada versus France, Canada taking it 3-0.
No.
So that moves us in our semifinals where we'll have UK versus South Korea and China versus Canada. And we'll go over that in part 2 because we have already gone too long. People have lives to live.
That's right.
Was there anything else you kind of wanted to?
No. We, like I said, we'll get back to it next week and fill you in on the rest of the World Cup action, man. There was a lot of it.
Yeah, definitely. So go back, check out the viewer if you can. I don't know, is it still available?
It's still available, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, check out the viewer
this morning.
Check out some clips because now the cool thing is people are posting clips using that viewer and just some analysis stuff as well. But yeah, for us, you guys can definitely contact us as always at the birdwatcherspodcast@gmail.com. That's spelled as it sounds. On Twitter, follow us at the Bird Watchers. Watchers is WATCH3RS. And then we're on Facebook, YouTube. We're on the competitive Reddit forums. We're always on there. I'm always on there, rounding up people. And then on Instagram. So, check us out. If you're enjoying the cast, like it, tell people about it, kind of spread it around. We should have some big news coming soon. And, if all that stuff works out, we'll be able to share that. And that'll be an exciting time as we move into season 2. But outside of that, I think we're done. I think our job's done for part 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Come back for part 2. It's going to be good.
So thanks for listening, guys, and catch you soon.
Yeah, see ya.
I have destroyed more of your kind than I can count.
You weren't given those guns to toss them around like trash.